You are listening to a production of
Stunna Madoda. Khuphuka.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take 1. Take 2.
Action!
Two takes to Thursdays, and we have a dilemma. The take of it all really is, what is the standard? And today, we are joined with guests, as I had promised, that it's not only going to be a monologue given, but a conversation with different takes. And today is a men's forum. And yeah, welcome, gentlemen. How are you doing? In a polymath perspective, we had to uncover the different pillars of identity, which are the body, mind, and the heart. Last week's episode touched a lot on the heart and in your sense of being, and this time we're touching on the body. Today's generation, our body is very much policed, like it was in many generations back. But this time it's influenced by politics, social media, our life's experiences. And a lot of it has to do with our physical appearance before we go into the inner being. Beauty standards, right? We have beauty standards that are divided between the different types of genders that we have in our society. Let me not even say genders, but sexuality biologically in the sense of male and women. Today, I brought different types of men that will have to contribute towards this conversation to be able to match up a take against another, right? So we have people from our queer community. We have people who are great intellects that I actually go to class with, so that's great. And then we have my friends, we have community. I've interacted with all these people, and I really think they have something fruitful to give to the conversation, right? So, are you ready? Remember, anything you say here is your take. It's a take against a take. It's not controversial. We're trying not to get cancelled, although, but it is a take against a take because here's my take, what's yours? Having to come into this, I had to understand from people what were the different kinds of conversations that we have around beauty standards. And I had prompts to drive the conversation, right? Today, we are matched up with different types of experiences that a lot of people, when we have to speak towards beauty standards, we say it's a preference. So my preference is this. Oh, I prefer being with someone like this, or I prefer someone to look like this. But where do we draw the line between preference and actually matching up your standard against someone else's? And then we start using words such as ugly, unwanted, become marginalized in the nature, right? So people then had to contribute. They were very much structured political takes. They were much about art and then just general society. And I think my first interesting one that we had was the fact that beauty standards are misogynistic in nature and they are used to fuel the capitalist machine. Here's my take. What's yours?
I think that's a very interesting take. I mean, I think that there definitely is a capitalistic element to beauty standards. And I think it's been that way for probably 50 years, probably as soon as, or closer to a century, since movies started coming out and people started commercializing beauty, But I think there was a departure point where, everyone can watch a film and the takeaway can be, oh, that actor or that actress look great. But there's that acknowledgement that it's part of the art, But I think in this modern age with social media, with advertising, with all these different, money-seeking, economically driven statements on beauty, I think it's taken on a toxic aspect where, people are no longer seeing it as art and acknowledging that these images have been touched up and that they've been, that they're adding all the best lighting, all the best touch-ups and filters and everything, adjusting things. Because with a piece of art, with a film, with a poster, with like a, painting, there's the understanding that this is an expression of beauty. But as soon as something gets held up as, this is what you must look like, this is how a pair of jeans must fit on you, this is how, a man is expected to look, a woman is expected to look, driven by profits, driven by, a bit of sex sells or a bit of aspiring to some kind of standard, I think that standard is determined by the capitalist overlords and not by people.
I mean, I think for me, when we say misogynistic, we obviously think that people are covered somehow, as in this commercialized type of stream that you speak about is accessible to one group of people and it kind of hides the other, right? We'll find that in the commercialized space, we have a lot of fairer skin being advertised than your darker skin. And this is what perpetuates the cycle of beauty standards in a sense. I mean, we're not necessarily saying beauty standards are bad, but if we now take it from the sense and to say they're misogynistic, it's obviously kind of hiding out certain groups of people that don't have a space to speak. So a lot of dark-skinned girls as well. Well, I think it's being more embraced these days, but it's still a thing of if you're lighter, you're better. Dark is dirty. This is something we can go into, right? But yeah, you look like you want to say something.
Yes, I do. I do, because I would go as far as saying that the cycle, before it becomes a capitalist system, it's patriarchal in its nature, because it is informed by people wanting to fit the male gaze. So before it can be something that is monetized into a capitalist structure, it needs to be socially accepted, and society in itself, normatively, it is formed by a patriarchal system. So it will become normalized and acceptable that lighter is better and darker is not, because that is what has been perpetuated in generations. It's a racial identity kind of a scenario, because before, what was seen as fairer and better was a light-skinned woman who was white. And even in our Black communities, a light-skinned woman is seen as better. It's colorism in that. So for me, when we started the conversation, we said, what is actually acceptable and all of that. Those things, in some instances, it's not because someone's preference is their preference. It's informed by something. They've seen that, oh no, white people are lighter, they're better, so that's my preference. So a preference in some instances is ontological. It's not something that you just want. It's something that is informed by a greater ideological preference.
So I actually saw a TikTok video with a girl who had a fair skin, right? But it's still within the Black community. She said that fitting the male gaze is a form of survival because of the type of marginalization that she had to face herself. And a lot of people are like, what type of marginalization are you facing if you have fair skin? She says, having to satisfy men, in a sense, always to say that you are the one that's paid. You have to always live up to a certain type of standard. You can't be called ugly. You are the one that is always picked out, and it puts a pressure on you, because now what happens if you don't have resources and even a way to access that, right? So they work hard to fit the male gaze as a form of survival. I think I touched on it last week in my episode, What If I Told You Nxasana, is that some people do things the same as others in order to just make it through. And I think that's now, I don't want to say now it permits beauty standards, but in a sense it does.
It does.
Yeah.
It endorses the idea, because now, because you are working so hard to fit the narrative, there's no way of dismantling the system. It's a problem now, because once you think you are pressured enough to fall into that category, the system perpetuates itself. And you, as the person who's saying is marginalized, you are assisting in that perpetuation. That becomes a problem now. Because it's not only an individualistic problem, it becomes a social issue, you know? So I think that's my take when it comes to that aspect of it being something that you have to fit into because you are pressured. Yet certain identities we perpetuate because we enable the system. We somewhat become enablers of it.
But then to follow up from what you're saying, right, how do we then undo that work of sort of like socialization in that sense? Because even if you try to sort of like ostracize yourself from this collective idea of, you know, adhering to the beauty standards and so forth, how do you sort of keep a stand and go back? Because even if you decide I'm going to go all natural, where are the beauty products for natural people? Where do you find them with kids? Well, if you want to do the makeup that actually goes into a shade, or like, you know, things that sort of adhere towards conservatism, very dicey take. But how do you get to do that within a collective identity of society, considering also consumerism being, you know, the big drive of everything that you find on the market? How do you undo that work?
Tibo looks like he has something to say.
I mean, just to take everyone on a different course or tangent. I'm a capitalist, by the way.
Rough take. Rough take.
I think one of the biggest problems that we have is the fact that we conform to systems that are already created, but we don't create our own systems. The reason why we have problems of these isms is because we're not creating our own isms. Where are the beauty shops that speaks to the type of people that we are? Where are the beauty shops that embrace black and dark women? I also want to say, when you look at these people who create beauty standards, your biggest fashion designers, Giorgio Armani.
I knew you were going to say that.
You know, those people who set the standards of beauty are men, right? So my take is that why are we not creating things that speaks to our aspirations? Why are we not creating systems that speaks to what we want? So that's my take.
If he's not speaking about styling, actually, one of my favorite designers, God rest his soul, is Karl Lagerfeld. I think he did really well to include women. Like, I feel like he did really well to include
But that's
women.
a man. That's a man who created the standard of beauty standard.
Actually.
Which woman? Maybe we can talk about Coco Chanel. Right? How many other black women, these things that we want? Because oftentimes we're quick to say, this is not happening. What are we doing to change?
You have a problem.
Yes. I have a problem. My problem here is that we are talking about products that are not there, but we are not talking about how to disable the system. It doesn't matter if we have people that have those products that accommodate certain pigmentations or people that look in a certain way. The system is still there. We are going to shame people that use those products. That's the problem. So it doesn't matter if we can try to diversify to be inclusive for people that are darker skinned and for people to embrace how their hair looks when it comes to beauty standards. We need to dismantle the system of standards, period.
So now what about stores not existing at all?
Do you know
What do we do here?
Yeah, well, if let's say you do dismantle the systems, and then let's continue with the hair example that you gave. Sure. Say I had huge hair at one, So it's not like the products aren't there. It's like hard to find them. So if more people would be comfortable enough to grow out their hair or to have those clicks in a way, okay, I have long hair. You're a stylist. You do da-da-da-da. I think that creates markets in itself. And in business, if you see a market, it's untapped, you're going to tap into that market and then you're going to make products for those people. So if in that dissemination, the system, we create those markets, business people will see those markets, I assure you.
But what about, just a moment, but what about people who don't want to wear their hair out? I mean, I came across a woman who says, I hate this thing where people now say, let's wear our natural hair out, let's be natural. What if I want to be a woman with makeup, full on makeup and a wig? Because that's my self-expression.
Those markets will be there.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on that. I wanted to touch on the dismantling of the system. I don't believe that we will be able to dismantle these systems because already there's people who created them. Already there's people who want to see them. Already there's people who contribute in them existing. What I'm saying is that, what do you like? What do you aspire to? What is it that you want?
That's my point. Acceptance.
That's a very good point as well, though, spoken as a true, accountant, a true economist. It's the truth. I mean, the way capitalism works is people vote with their feet.
Yep.
So, I think what's important is people owning who they are, whatever they want to be, however they want to express themselves. I mean, fashion is such a, expressive form of art. So, I mean, if enough people, like you say, just based on market forces, if enough people create a demand, the supply will follow. That isn't to say that there isn't a system, like you say, that is making that difficult. That can make that difficult. But I think at the end of the day, it starts with individual choices, like you said.
Yeah. Just to think, because we're also not trying to stick too much on a topic, because we're trying to, we have a lot to say. And this is exactly why we have part 2 for women. And I might make a part 3 where we not bring men and women in one space. But that's another thing, right? Is that there are different forms of how we've responded to this. There's points of acceptance, there's push commercialization, but still bring in a different type of system. They say break down the system. That's our take, right now. But I think as a point of departure is that considering how consumerism is still a very much alive culture and how we still all have different experiences, I think I say a very loosely used phrase, but each to their own. Each to their own. And this is exactly how it fits in with the fact that another take had to say that our relationship with beauty standards shape how we navigate and connect with the world. Definitely, I think for me, I know how I want to represent myself when I go out because of how I want people to receive me and interact with me. I dye my eyebrows. I do weird stuff. I probably style, I probably style in a sense that's out of the norm. But I had a conversation with my friend and she says, you know how you style out of the norm is that it's still kind of relatable. Right, Meta Production, by the way, said that. But she said it's still kind of relatable. And in a sense, I think that brings back the point of relationality is that even in each and every type of expression that you can have with that particular beauty standards, it still forms part of a community and how we interact. So I want to be received as the creator who's still very much a great intellect. I don't want to lose my identity. There's this dual nature to it. But then I'm also still trying to fight a lot of standards against that as well. I mean, very openly so to everyone is that I did say at some point that I battle with face dysmorphia. Body dysmorphia is a thing, but I battle with face dysmorphia. Constantly I have to look, literally, guys, thank you so much. But like, I look in the mirror and I'm like, I got bad. But I look in the mirror and I think, oh my gosh, I look different than I looked yesterday. And how is that looking to other people? Then I think everybody's looking at me. I realize it's because of the different cycles of beauty standards that exist. But then how then can I control that to interact with the world? So I navigate through that as well. So I'm working through points of acceptance that we already touched on. But like, is it that easy? Like, what is the standard, you know?
What is the standard? That's where I'm hopping.
Okay.
So I think that the standard is structured within a Western framework. And I'm going to speak specifically to men. Not going to
remembering this is how it says we are navigating how we interact with the world. Yeah.
I'm going to get to that part, but I just want us to look at what is the standard first. So as I said, it's based on the Western framework, characteristics which are attributed to white people mostly. When we talk about height, when we talk about weight, when we talk about style, all those things, we look at them from a Western perspective. The average man must be 6 foot tall, the taller the better. You must be slim.
I mean,
she's 44.
You must have a V line.
No, actually, you guys would be shocked.
You must have a V line. So every time we come at these standards, it's always from a Western framework. And we never come from an African perspective of them. Because we have
and a man can be short. I like short men.
But that's not the standard. That's not what
production is shocked.
That's not what we want. That's not what we've told ourselves that we want. That's not the Western framework. And it then creates this paradox, specifically within our South African context, where it's now, you have Lethabo. Tabo's gogo is happy that Tabo he's chubby, means he's healthy in her view. But then Tabo has the society, which is like, Joe, you need to cut down what you're eating. You need to move to the Western framework. You need to be slim. You need to have that V-line. And I think once we start to create that part of what is the standard in our context, then we can find a way to navigate it and connect it to the world. But if we're still coming from that Western perspective, there's not going to be a shift. We're just going to retrogress back to the 50s where you had your Van Damme, your Schwarzenegger, that type of masculinity that was presented in this Western framework of you must have these big biceps, also with the intersectionality of colorism, which must be lighter. Black melanin men are not favored more than the standard light. Yeah. So I just think that's the point of departure when it comes to first what is the standard. We need to deconstruct from that Western favor to try to discover our own African within our own African context. Then we can find a reality.
But it's so interesting because your whole framework and scenario was a lot of on a men's points. Like Lethabo, you used a male in that sense. You even spoke about how men are contributing towards it in the perpetration. I mean, it fits well because we only have men here. Yeah. We're in a men's forum. I'm not a man. I honestly feel like that would be from a male's perspective of how that is. It's structured and sorted. And for me personally now, right, as a breaking point as a woman now is that actually how men view themselves and set standards for each other is exactly why there are standards for women as well. Like it starts with them as well. So, it might be controversial. It might be, I always did say that. I did say in the first episode, I'm trying not to be controversial. But there was a specific tweet I saw that said that so many men treat women how they see themselves, right? And that standard I honestly feel like beauty standards for women in that sense come from the fact that men have to also put themselves to a certain standard, right? But hold yourself to a higher standard. But now that's another thing. That's another conversation to say that men themselves having to find where they fit in their own friend groups, in their families. Then now it comes out and it pours out into women that women also now have to fit into it. Who also, I'll touch on this in the women's forum. Women in some way contribute towards beauty standards amongst each other, right? But as a men's forum, let's come back to that.
I just want I just want to touch on something here. I think another mistake that we're making is that we generalize beauty standards a lot. We think this is the standard. Bro, ever since I grew, I love dark women. Like, that's the standard for me, not you, to say, but like, yeah. So,
not
why
me.
am I...
No,
what I'm saying...
Not me.
Yeah. So, what I'm trying to say is that I think sometimes based on where we come from and our understanding, what a person or a being sees Guininga is two different things, right? So I think we generalize beauty standards, both for females and males, but we come from different backgrounds and we understand the world and everything differently. So I don't think that we all agree in terms of beauty. Everything is yellow bone or should be white, should be this, should be that.
Can I have a take? Just briefly.
Give your take. That's your take.
This is my take. I think we should not bypass how a system works and stick to our own individual preference and perceptions. I might have a preference that says I like dark-skinned women, but the system we have in society favors light-skinned women, period. So you might have a particular preference when it comes to the kind of woman you like or what you see as acceptable for you as an individual, which is informed by something else. But in society, the person who's seen as more desirable, who looks and fits the part of how a woman should look, is built on a system that is built on patriarchy. So that is what feeds the markets. It's that socialized idea. So it's more ideological than we might think. So it's not a matter that is built on preference here. So it's not generalized, but it is built on a system. And systems are not general. They are directed at a particular group of people. I think that's also something we need to open our minds to when we are speaking about beauty standards. Beauty standards are a problem just because they're a system, not because of a preference someone had, you know? You had a shake.
Can I just chime in from that one? I think I kind of want to connect the last four things. You spoke about like connecting in terms of like owning your space, how you don't want to be put into this whole white collar identity because you're doing law. Everyone expects you to sort of have like, you know, as it's standard.
I need to always show up in black and white. I am a creative in the legal space.
That's what it is. So I think also like using that and kind of what Olumide spoke about with the whole thing of trying to cement yourself and understanding that there's standards and practices sort of come in from something way bigger than ourselves, the system that you're trying to unpack. I think also the people that then sit at a very niche position are people who sort of define the binary, right? You're neither a woman nor a man, but you still have to have something that sort of signifies or identifies where you are or how you're feeling that particular day or that particular week. So what kind of like things do you then have to subscribe to? Particularly, I'll speak on behalf of like queer people, for example, right? We've had the whole return of like corseted dresses and corsets and slim waist, no waist kind of vibe. And now you're out here like unable to breathe simply because you want to have that like slim hourglass figure for the perception of like society, not necessarily for your own comfort. And I think it's somewhat comes into the whole thing of like beauty standards being, I don't want to say misogynistic by nature, but they are. Yeah, right. There's that sense of patriarchy where you almost always have to comply or be subservient to the rules that are sort of like flowing within society. So I think there is, maybe this will connect you to like that other conversation where women are now also in the room, because then you get to see how much pain you go through just to get into a sense of connectivity and relating within the broader context of society. Even within white collar jobs as well. For example, if I show up in the lab with like brightly colored hair, it's a conversation.
Yeah.
But if, you know, but if someone else just like happens to cut their hair or change their style, it's normal. It's not okay. As well. For example, if I show up in the lab with like brightly colored hair, it's a conversation.
Yeah.
But if, you know, but if someone else just like happens to cut their hair or change their style, it's normal. It's like, okay, you don't look nice today, And when you now stand in front of like conferences, presentations and stuff like that, you sort of have to double down on how you present yourself or how intellectual you sound so that they can take you seriously, simply because what they see doesn't combine with like the standard of how intellectual.
What a great way to go into the third take that we had, that beauty standards actually inform our behavior. For me,
men in particular.
wow, I actually, you know what's shocking for me today? Do you know what's shocking for me? I thought a lot of this conversation would be a very much patriarchal tone, but I think men are calling each other out in a sense, but hey, that's just my take, right? They say that beauty standards inform a particular behavior that you have, right? It's very easy for someone who fits in with, I don't know if it's not niche, it's mainstream, like mainstream fashion. It's very easy for them to kind of not want to find a sense of self-expression because they're always trying to fit into something that's already designed for them. I mean, last week I spoke about spandex tights that like carve out the bum in the gym. A lot of women are doing that, and those came out of nowhere. And now people are comfortable with it. We're now wearing athleisure in clubs. And it's a thing of, okay, now when you ask, why is that? It's like, no, there's a standard that this makes you look better. Now it's informing how you actually show up for yourself in a space, right? So behavior in its sense as well. I think another interesting thing is I observed my mom and my grandmother and how they interact with a lot of beauty products, for example. So my mom says their makeup is lip liner, touch of eyeshadow, move, which is so opposite to us with the whole foundation, concealer, you're still highlighting, you still need to puff powder, everything is going on. And they said that no, it's because that when we go out into the world, what needs to take space is our personality more than our look, right? So their behavior already is informed with the fact that I need to show up more and to speak more to try to dumb down the fact that I have less makeup on me. And people with more makeup usually are more quiet. So because they are the center of attention in the sense of we're all focusing on the makeup than what you're having to say. I mean, someone said to me, and I found it offensive at first, but I went home to actually like deconstruct it, right? They're saying that, you know, the reason why we never really see that you're beautiful is because you show up with your personality first than how you look. And people who show up with their beauty, than their personality first, they are usually the ones who are seen as conventionally beautiful. And another take that came in very well, it says that they said that such things are conventional and it's premised on the fact that these are problematic, right? I mean, I first said to myself, does this mean I'm ugly and all you see is personality? And they're like, no, you're not ugly. I just missed the fact that you were beautiful because you showed up with your personality. And someone who was
conventionally beautiful, doesn't show up with their personality. And this is where behavior now becomes a conversation.
I really like these takes because I think what we're getting at is that there's almost this abstract of what the beauty ideal is. And then there's kind of you spoke to the real life, I always came up believing that there's someone for everyone. Everyone I've ever spoken to about, dating, stuff like that, everyone has different preferences for every single person. I've never met two people that have exactly the same standard of what they consider beautiful or what they consider beautiful about themselves, and I think that's a very important point, is like there is definitely this overarching and often problematic idealistic beauty standard that's pushed onto people, but people just walk around and interact with each other, and at the end of the day, every single person will have someone who thinks, wow, that's a beautiful human being. If you guys follow what I'm saying.
It goes into the conversation of types also. Recently I learned that I have a type and I didn't have a type. No, here we are. Because I didn't have a type. I realized I don't have a type. For a long time I did not have a type. I'm not going to be that person that stands and says, oh, I'm tall, dark and handsome with a little bit of guys, whoever came, man, like you just came, man, and I probably are connected with you or whatever. But my recent interactions and my recent relations have made me realize I have a type. And it's weird because I find my type in that particular person. But then now even though I've now found my type in that particular person, I'm now deconstructing it again. I'm like, am I sure this is my type? And that's very much informed by society's beauty standards, right? Like, what is the standard? I don't want to have to second guess my type, and then I also second guess myself. Am I my type's type? Because guys, I swear, I sit and I'm like, am I my type's type? And this is very much informed by what society says and not what's between us. I had a very intimate conversation with a friend to say that stop looking at what other people are saying. This is between us, and that can literally put a hold as to what you expect of me and what I expect of you. And that's literally now my take with this. This is how I'm applying it, is that if we put a hold to the types of beauty standards that we have in society and actually focus internally, not only in ourselves, but the type of relationships that we have with other people, beauty standards would not necessarily be a thing, right? Debatable. And I can see that why are you saying very debatable?
Okay. I don't want to go off on another tangent, but I just want to go back to this one that you were speaking to, how they become problematic. Currently now, as we see in the world, the ideal man is the one who's healthy, the one who's fit, the one with the six-pack, the one with the biceps, the one who's conventionally attractive, not by their facial features, but by their body. And so how this has become problematic is that it has led to male muscle dysmorphia. You have to attain that
muscle dysmorphia. I'm starting to hear that one.
Also, okay. Hypopermia, but that's a whole different conversation. But what we're seeing now is that men are trying to ascribe to the fitness. They want to have the body, because the body is what's attractive. Steroids, yes. The body is what's attractive now. The body is what's attractive. That's what we want to see. So we've been seeing, and it's also been exacerbated by AI. Most people are pasting their images into AI, enhance my biceps, enhance my triceps. And it sort of feeds into this muscle dysmorphia, because it's akin to anorexia. What we're seeing, men are now having disorders, eating disorders. They're on these constant diets. They're damaging their health in order to attain to this current ideal of a man must be fit, can be slender, and need to be masculine, need to be attractive, need to have this physique. That's just speaking to what we all want to see now.
I mean, Bulls, you go to the gym.
Yeah, you know.
I know my dog goes to the gym, right? Like, what does this say to everything that Lungelo just said? Yeah.
Okay, so gym culture it can get toxic. It can get very toxic because like let's say you see, I don't know, I don't want to make this up. But like, let's say you see some fitness influencer, right?
Yeah.
And you aspire to look like that. And they push an agenda that, yo, I've got this body, I'm gonna sell you a horse. You know? It's something
Yeah,
like
they
that.
always say, right, barter
So,
for my course in the comments.
time, they didn't even attain it naturally. You know? And then push a thing like, okay, no.
Right, barter
for
my course in the comments.
Time, they didn't even attain it naturally. You know? And then push a thing like, okay, no, this is all natural, I got this myself, because of this horse thing that pushes the values very much. You know? They're doing it's
goes back to commercialization.
Yeah. I would gatekeep it, bro. Like personally, if I had a working formula, I'm gatekeeping. Why would I just? Nigga, you don't need a formula. I'm just saying.
No, but why are you gatekeeping it?
Because exclusivity. It's profit.
Exclusivity. It's
I'm
so
not
interesting.
I'm not trying to make a profit over it, but if you know, even in that terms, like in a certain way, I don't want to.
You know what's so interesting? In Socrates' readings, I'm going philosophical.
Please.
You said exclusivity, right? Greatest man alive, at least I believe, Socrates, had divided the city into 3 groups, right? And it said that in those 3 groups, each and everyone works according to their natural birth to be in that group, and they maintain the different hierarchies and groups that exist within that city, right? They were exclusive in that sense. But what was so interesting is that exclusivity is the reason why the city broke down in the first place, the crux of it, right? And this is what led to different cycles starting to form. Classism, right? For me, when Bull said, I want to be exclusive and keep it, it's like those people who gatekeep the type of, let me use women, because I know someone who literally gatekeep the foundation, guys. I had to go look for it, right? Those people who gatekeep a certain type of thing, they for one start then forming the different types of classism that we have. Because I'm better than you, you don't have this. It's a secret.
Friends that I've had in the fitness industry, you know, as like personal trainers. And it's a very cutthroat industry because everyone's competing over the same clients. So then it becomes toxic in the sense that, obviously not all personal trainers are on steroid, but it becomes toxic in the sense that you're selling yourself. Like your own physique is the advertisement for your regime, for your diet, like for how you train. Like people want to be trained by someone who has a physique that they aspire to. And, you know, we can speak about whether that's right, whether that's wrong. It's probably wrong because it wants to conform to a specific standard, which maybe it's not even necessarily the most healthy. It's just the most diced, whatever terminology you want to call it. And I hear where you're coming from, and it feeds into the commercialization, how capitalism is driving a toxic move towards maybe a toxic body image, that could lead to anorexia. Men get anorexia too, it's
Why are we continuing the system of capitalism if we know that it's stealing people? For example, I wanted to make a point that is premised on what you spoke about when it comes to how behavior becomes assimilated into standards. That's something I wanted to speak on, and you can fight me when we're done. And I'm about to speak about Xhosa men in particular. So for one, there's this growing culture now where men that are Xhosa that dress like bulls and baggy clothes and all that, they are seen as people that are not meant to be socially acceptable because they are lesser of that. So amongst men,
they swag. I should ever them swag.
No. Listen, amongst Xhosa men, if you come to them and you speak to them, mind you, I know the very same thing that you know about masculine identity and what it means to be a man, but simply because I am assimilated into a particular fashion culture and I like dressing up like that, I am seen as more of a problem and lesser of a man because of that. So that behavior amongst Xhosa men, it means that at all times, that creates a certain behavior amongst men. So classically, so you're like, oh, I'm
They do,
a
yeah.
I
I literally responded, actually, interestingly enough, I had a conversation. It was not a conversation, but it was comment on what he had responded to that I posted, right? So you know that chain that says, no, they cancelled Bafaz. I said, listen, hold on. I said they cancelled Bafaz, he won't dance with me, right? For me, I used that, it was just a joke. Like, I really love dancing, and I really find that if I want to be with someone as my partner, if I break out of dance out of nowhere, you have to dance with me. And then he commented, right, and he said that I jive, just a little bit. And then I was like, and then I literally responded to him and said, I just watched the video that said not every Xhosa man is a Gyan, which is so interesting, because it's like, what do you mean not every Xhosa man is a Gyan? What do you mean not every Xhosa man has passed through, like, being a man, like, rites of passage, right? But it's so interesting because you can point out some Xhosa people, if you say, where are you from? They won't be able to tell where they are from. And that shows, like, quite literally, that they might not assimilate into that type of culture. So why is it perpetuated? Because you guys even forget amongst yourselves that some of you are not like each other.
My sister, do you know why it's perpetuated? It's just, I'll answer that and then I'll give over to my brother. The reason why we don't even address the fact that not all of us are Xhosa men is because already amongst ourselves, we know who's who. And the person who knows that they don't form part of that particular group of men that are Xhosa will not even be there. In fact, it's very easy to sideline a man that is Xhosa but is not assimilated into that rite of passage. It's easy. You can be ostracized in a conversation. So it's very easy. In such things, you get to see the different clusters of Xhosa people and how culture plays a role in the behavior we have amongst each other as men. It becomes more toxic amongst Xhosa men because generally men in general are toxic in general, and they project that toxicity. But Xhosa men project toxicity amongst themselves.
Okay, so now hold that thought, right? It comes in back with what we said at the beginning, was that when we say what is the standard, it's very much also informed by your experience. So this is coming in with a cultural experience, their own livelihoods, having to form conversation on beauty standard itself. I mean, if we think of the word beauty, right? Beauty from the get-go, you're thinking physical appearance, umandi, makeup, hair done, nails on fleek, everything on, that's beauty, right? But beauty in itself also comes from how you show up within your cultural experiences. So in a sense that, I'm not going to say that because for me, we usually say that men are handsome and women are beautiful. But let's say that in that, it's a problem. It's a problem. That's something else to deconstruct, but it's to say that certain types of people are accepted within your Xhosa group, or like within just being a Xhosa man, because that's beautiful to the culture experience itself. And when someone is out of that and being different, like swag wise, that's now what we could term ugly to the culture. It's not explicitly said that this is ugly to the culture, but that's how it's treated. We know how what is deemed as ugly is treated. It's ostracized. It's put out, right? It's what is the standard? But let me just. You wanted to say something. Yes. You're burning. You're burning.
So I want to touch on Julia's point, but I want to also touch on your own point. We must remember that beauty standards are monolithic. They're not simply what depend on time, race, culture, over time.
So beauty standards are monolithic.
I want to specifically talk about within the new context of our community, our culture. There's been this exacerbated feminization of heterosexual men based on how they decide to bring themselves and present themselves in our modern era now. It's informed by this new era of men's skincare and beauty, your bath and shine, your morning skincare routine. All those attributes have sort of exacerbated the feminization of heterosexual men. Because in our communities, when you do these things, they tend to view you as more feminine, less of a man. You can't fit into the conversation because how are you going to fit into this conversation about men?
Okay.
Siyala Brian. Now we have to hear these others are ezenziwe. Umthathini yamagqokweni. It's absurd the things that this feminization of heterosexual men. And I think we also need to talk about this and understand it within our specific culture and communities. Because is this a new era of skincare bath and shy a new acceptable way of men's expression? Or is it further categorizing men within our culture and communities?
I'm not gonna touch on that. That's okay.
But you said something about the feminizing of heterosexual men, right? Justin, I'm assuming you're heterosexual. You don't assume these things, guys. But like a lot of men are accepted within communities, like to be more masculine, even in the way in which you speak. You have a relatively deeper voice than a lot of people I know, right? What has that? How has this actually like impacted your life experience? Like in terms of, because I'm trying to tie this back into the standard itself. I mean, there's a lot of, like, I know a lot of people say, no, man, you must have a deep voice. You must speak like this. I mean, I am a woman. I mean, it might not sound like it now, and I'm hoping it doesn't in the camera, but I'm someone with a deep voice. Even when I wake up, right? But like, what does this mean for you? Because for me, the standard is women are more soft. You speak, hey, how are you? Sorry guys, I can't, hey, how are you? I'm fine. Every day, how are you? Like, how are you doing? Are you okay? That's me every day. And you, I think from now, me being on, you have that experience as a man. So what does this mean for you?
So, I mean, it's, it raises the question, what is masculinity? Like, what is a masculine voice? What is a masculine look or dress sense? I mean, I think, you can raise that question, but this conversation, funny enough, it made me think about my own lived experience in terms of skincare. It's something to speak about. I mean, like I struggle with my skin, I haven't always been the best in terms of like maintaining it, and like I eat a lot of chocolate and whatever, but, so, I have had times where like I've like put on like a face mask, like a charcoal mask, and I kind of, chilling with the boys, got a bit of, doing this, what are you up to? And it's kind of like, why is caring for my skin, like, why is that something to be like noted at all? Like, surely that's a completely gender neutral concept. It's like skincare. So I think it's a very interesting conversation about skincare for heterosexual men. I mean, the joke that my sister always makes is like, why do men's skincare products always say like jagged ice, extreme, like why can I really, what's different about my skin that I have to use guarana and rock crystal and I can't use like a rose scented, like, you know what I mean? I think it's an interesting conversation.
So I think for me, we could say a lot. This conversation is too thick. And I feel like now, when the women watch these, a lot of the people that are even going to be in the women's forum, they're going to be able to build on the conversation. Now, I heard that, the conversation is not, it's not, like, this time is not enough for it. And this might warrant me to make a part 3 where we have men and women together, but we'll see, according to how I feel. Because this is my take. I'm joking, but it's all about us. For me, I think what really establishes this whole conversation is a very last take that we had was it is embedded in everything. Beauty standards are embedded in everything. We say, what is the standard? And it for me, it's like, it's very hard to pick and choose what the standard is because of this take that it's embedded in everything. It's very hard to escape beauty standards. We can try to deconstruct it like we spoke about in the first take that we had. We can try to go through it in terms of the commercialization of it, life experiences and culture as well. But like Daniel Caesar says, change is inevitable. Beauty standards seem quite inevitable. I say that, however, you guys could say anything else. I mean, I always say that here's my take, what's yours? I want you to contribute towards that, what do you have to say about this? And I think it's interesting because a very well-rounded conversation we had was from Mbani, having to capture each and every type of point that we had and still bring it back to the fact that this also exists within our queer community. And you had to also represent a very much, I don't want to say this and don't get offended, but a very much masculine tone towards it and a very heterosexual approach in it, right? And I just stand here as a break point. But like, yeah, having to say it's embedded in everything. If I had to put you guys together, how would that map out for you, for Ngobani and Google Balls?
I think there is a lot of conversations that would come up around desirability politics, particularly within gender diverse or queer people in general, but also interestingly realizing that the both of us are suffering from the same systems, just in different forms. If that makes sense. Like the person who's sitting on our necks is a very same system that's antagonizing the both of us, and yet in that same sense, you also do have friction between heterosexual men, not all of them, of course, and queer individuals as well. It's so interesting that we're both minority, but we're also like fighting.
So these standards are already embedded in everything. They affect all of us. Yeah. And
I think like I'm a pretty ignorant person, right?
Point yourself in.
Yeah, I'm quite ignorant. So like I don't really pay attention to a lot of things. I couldn't care less about most things, about most beauty standards, about like personally I could not care less. If I think I look cool, I don't care what you have to say. Honestly, like if I think she looks pretty, I think so, bro, I think that, and I'll actually stand on that. So I think people need to be more assertive. I think people need to be more comfortable in themselves.
So it brings back the point of acceptance. Yeah.
We should be more assertive. Like, be comfortable in yourself, bro. You know, Tyler the Creator back in like 2012, he didn't get, bro. That even who Frank Ocean, like people are like, oh my goodness, like, they're huge artists now. Look at Tyler's one, multiple Grammy, cool artist, you know, because he's not afraid to be himself. Like
acceptance,
just, bro. Be you.
Acceptance.
Find yourself and be yourself. If you know,
Tyler says, find your wings. But like, yeah, acceptance. Yeah, you wanted to close off first?
Just some of what he said. I mean, of course, they're embedded in everything, culture, race, and so forth. But then, at the end of the day, there are standards. You can deviate from standards. You can choose to be you. You can choose to be outside of the norm. I mean, if it suits you, then it suits you. That's just one way in which you can tackle it. Because we can discourse about this for hours, but then in the end, we're supposed to do some practical solutions that we have to come up with. If we say that beauty standard is embedded in everything, then how do we overcome that? And then my view of that is deviate from the standard.
So while they're embedded in everything, there's still a standard.
Yes.
Even though acceptance comes inner and interrelationally in our communities, the question still stands. What is the standard? Here's our take. What's yours?
Okay, that's a wrap.